Dear friends, allow me the stage to reintroduce myself. My name is Marcus Amaker. I came into this world with the heartbeat of life in the key of life. Stevie Wonder's album constantly spinning in the home of a military family passing through Las Vegas. Even as a baby, music was the only beat that made sense besides the beat of my mother and father's heart. It was the only rhythm that felt unforced, unlike my voice, that stuttered as a child, stammered as a teen, still stumbles as an adult. I beat myself up the first time words bumped against my breath, my brain, disconnected from the pulse inside my head, so I made beats alone behind closed doors instead. Singing into cassette tapes became a diary of melody. You know, I'm going to pause the poem because this slide is really important. This is the first thing I ever created. I was 10 years old, and my first song was called Big Butt. And yes, and Big Butt is still the best thing that I've ever done. I'm not lying to you all. It was on cassette tape, and I don't know why I thought I had a big butt, and that drawing is really amazing. But anyway, continuing. Singing into cassette tapes became a diary of melody. Music became the sibling I never had, a best friend for any swing of mood. Metallica, aggression. Janet Jackson, joy. Prince, confidence. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, the soul of a black boy now living in Japan. And then I discovered the beat of hip hop. A Tribe Called Quest was a journey that left rap's permanent impression on my tongue. Words started forming from boom bap, the beat of black experience. Hip hop was a baby who taught me how to speak. I merged with its movement, still swinging to its beat. With college came the unchained melodies of Joni Mitchell, Tori Amos, Ani DeFranco, and PJ Harvey. Every night, I absorbed the beat of women's voices into broken-hearted poems in tune with the downbeat of black wings spiraling through depression. I've lived a lifetime of repetition and melancholy as muscle memory, but came out stronger. My wife knows the ebb and flow of my beat. We write songs together without the accent of sound. She is my melody until the beat of time goes silent. Thank you. So wow, just the feeling of hearing claps is really amazing right now. Can you all clap just one more time, even if you don't? Oh my gosh, awesome, wow. So what an interesting world we are in, but I'm really glad that the Gaillard was able to figure out a way to bring us all together for art and for a good vibe tonight, good energy tonight. As a performing artist, it's been interesting to pivot to doing virtual stuff, which I actually really love, but I pushed against it until I'm like, okay, let me do it. And it actually feels really good. But there's nothing that compares to being on stage and to seeing you all and hearing you all. This is wonderful. So thank you, Gaillard Center, for this experience. I'm the artist in residence here, and one thing that I love about this space is that we've been able to do a bunch of programming for students. So it was actually almost exactly a year ago. I was on this stage, and this whole venue was filled with students, screaming students. It was amazing. And I did a show called Poetic Hip Hop, and it was great. And I think it was the first time hip hop had been on this stage. And I taught them about spoken word. We had some other artists on here. Nisi Blues was on here, and it was absolutely amazing. So I just really enjoy that experience, because when I moved here, I should have had a slide of me when I first moved here, but I didn't have any hair, didn't have any friends, or any sort of drive to do something like this, but I'm just blessed to be in this experience. So I'm going to be up on stage for about 3 hours, so I hope that you're No, people just get up and leave. That'll be amazing. Okay, so I'm not a comedian. I am a poet, and this is one of the poems that I wrote when the pandemic started. So I was just really looking around everywhere and just soaking up the energy that I saw, and things were very weird back in March. They're weird now, but I think they're less weird. But definitely in March, when everything shut down, I was like, what is going on? So this is a poem called 20 Till Infinity. And as a poet, we think a lot about the way that a poem looks, not just the words. So one of the things that I really wanted to do with this poem was to space out the words and space out the lines, because that was what we were going through, and that's what we are still going through right now. This is called 20 Till Infinity. Look at us. Footsteps making echo sound on sidewalks, black men leaning in for a head nod instead of a handshake. Loneliness as survival, curbside cocktails, men in masks walking pit bulls. Parents loving and loathing school shutdown, cigarette smoke dancing around silent porch gatherings. Physical and emotional distance. Paranoia as in, can the trees spread the disease? Ghost streets. Some of us taking slow breath in the middle of fast ration, dark mode option of the internet. Moms with strollers, coffee, and cellular phones. Bicyclists letting us in on the midday sun secret, still finding time to put on lipstick. Mind and body going in circles, off balance, prayers up through pollution. Janet Jackson in headphones sampling Joni Mitchell's Big Truth chorus. This is how we chill from 2020 till. Thank you. All right, can you all snap? Can you snap for me? It's like snap. Nice. Okay, so can you snap if you are obsessed with social media? Nice. The people who are not snapping right now are lying, because I think, no, I'm just kidding. Maybe. But I just, social media is a thing. So I wrote a poem about that, but it's also about a lot of other things too. This is called The United States of Anxiety. just the title alone. Welcome to the United States of Addiction. In this country, your smartphone holds more meaningful moments than your memory. Here, social media is social justice, and history is a hashtag for broken screens to get their fix. Here, fame doesn't lead to fortune, just first world problems. Echo chambers for people at war with themselves. In the United States of Addiction, the Declaration of Independence isn't for independent people, the quiet-minded who mind their own business. In this country, you can be an activist by just being active on your phone, retweeting revolutionary wars, thumbprints of repetition, standing up for something without getting up from your couch. Self-indulgent shouts with a global view, but boomerangs of wisdom from a bedroom in your house. This is a patriotic poem. Welcome to the United States of Anxiety. In this country, society tells us our credit should be straight while selling us the crooked path of commercialism. Here, citizens take CBD oil between awkward conversation and the constant chatter of the mind. Boredom is not an option. Silence is not sustainable. In the United States of Anxiety, Instagram spoons with insomnia. We swipe up and get out of bed, wide awake with sleepy minds, then daydream of FOMO and flat screens, the American dream. This is a patriotic poem. Welcome to the United States of Assumptions. In this country, the color of your skin allows automatic privilege, land, money, power, health, monuments, legacy, generational wealth. Here, anything unfamiliar is dangerous. Anyone who disagrees with you is the devil. In the United States of assumptions, any poet who speaks about injustice must be an Obama-loving, hip-hop bumping, tree-hugging, emotional, heartbeat-pumping soul of a man. On the surface, that may be true about me, but there's many more layers for you to see. Welcome to the United States of aggression. In this country, we freely walk over broken bones in the basement of buildings built by the kidnapped and enslaved. Here, we walk on beautiful landscapes. We dance on graves. Welcome to America. It's a walking contradiction. This is a patriotic poem. All right, so one of the things that happened this year, a challenging year for artists, but I had already planned to release a book, and I went ahead and released it in April, and it's called The Birth of All Things. One thing about this book that was interesting to me is that I had a little anxiety. I'm like, you know what, I wrote all these poems, this book needs to come out, and I just went ahead and released it. And it's been an amazing experience. And I think because a lot of people are at home now and reading a lot more, this has been my most successful experience. And I blame, in a good way, my daughter. So I am the dad of a 11-month-old. She's going to be 11 months next week. And I started this project and this process, The Birth of All Things, the first time I heard her heartbeat. My wife and I were at the hospital, and I sampled the heartbeat. I was kind of an annoying dad. I had like my recorder there, and I was recording the heartbeat, and I made some music out of it. And then that sparked poems. And for me, the birth of all things means the birth of this joy, the birth of anxiety, the birth of responsibility, the birth of all of these things. So it's just something that I really put everything into this book. And I am very thankful for the experience of being a dad. One of the poems that I wrote about being a dad is called Skin to Skin. And as a new dad, I realized that I hold her a lot in one hand, or one arm, and I'm doing so many other things with the other hand. And this is just about that. It's called Skin to Skin. Learn how to do things with one hand, make a cheese omelet, rescue the sacrificial pacifier from floor dust, answer the client's email, pour orange juice in a glass and add champagne, cover your child's ear and take note of everything that claims its own volume, bend down on one knee to feed the cat, type this poem, write the set list for the show, flex your dad muscle, dance and sway to Brittany Howard's new album, fix the record if a track skips. Do all of this as baby sleeps in your other arm, round face pressed against chest, deep rhythm breath. Thank you. All right, so I had like all of these poems, and it ended up, I was like, okay, this book is gonna be all about being a dad. But I ended up writing a lot of other things as well. But I'm gonna read one more poem about dad stuff. I'm already that annoying dad. When I see friends, I'm like, look at her, like look at these photos. It's called Sleep When the Baby Sleeps. Sleep when the baby sleeps, they say, as if sleeping is a switch easily turned on, especially when all of your mind's power is being used for the electricity of fatherhood, especially when you know that a dad could be a god, but you are a feminist, especially when your daughter's breathing could brush the quiet off of a cloud, but you keep checking for storms through weather-worn insomnia. What if a baby is a poem? Ask me to sleep through that. where every breath is a mirror fog writing itself through unstable, forgetful darkness, and each mind twitch is a pen stroke. No matter what happens, the words will be written, a mouth will be fed, a woman will be born, a person will be your echo, and your eyelids will be heavy with daylight. Thank you. So I was named the first poet laureate of this fine, complicated city back in 2016, and it's been an honor to serve you all in this position. One thing that I love about being the poet laureate is just having a voice for the arts and having that voice be listened to. There's so many artists in this city. It's art that built this building. It's art that keeps the city going. And it's been wonderful to have conversations with the mayor about it, to be supported from the city, to do things, because there's so many artists in the city. There are a lot of students as well, and I'm gonna read a couple student poems after this next piece. But I just encourage you all to create. You don't have to share it. You don't even have to let anybody know that you create. Just write something down. We aren't magicians, we do work hard at this being an artist, but I think that it's important to just encourage you all to write. I was asked by the mayor to write a poem for his inauguration. And one of the other joys of being a poet laureate is excuses to wear my fancy hat that I wear all the time here at this inauguration and tonight. But I wrote a poem that's sort of a love letter to Charleston, and I premiered this at his inauguration back in January, which seems like years ago. It's prior to any COVID-19 talk. This is called Hope is in the Listening. City as sorcerer and storyteller, sharp-eyed observant, holy grandmother. She's survived 350 years because the longevity of the Low Country requires a special kind of magic. Today, we are witnesses to that witchcraft, citizens of its charm. Today, she is the voice connecting her family, the tourist and tour guide, cradling history in their arms like a crying infant, the LGBTQ community, joyous and resilient in the shadow of hate crimes. Plantation workers sending one-way postcards to ghosts, Black poets, the great interpreters of Southern truth, the farmer, hand-delivering homegrown sunshine, the mayor, whose job is to see hope through floods of watered-down politics. Charleston's story should be defined by this diversity, the sounds of promise and protest. She may be old, but her best days are ahead. Whatever challenges await, we will face them together because she hears us. People of change, she hears us. Thank you. All right, so as the artist in residence here at the Gaillard and poet laureate, I visit schools all the time, and I love seeing what students come up with. So I'm going to share 3 of those poems with you, and these are all 7th to 8th graders. Whenever I write with them, I'm realize I'm going to share some of your stuff on stage, and they're like, what? But I want you to read some of this stuff. So one of the lessons that I do with students is we do figurative language, and alliteration is one of those things, like tongue twisters. It's fun. And this is one of my favorite ones. This is a 6th grader, actually. Silently lurking in the shadows, there lays a snake, strangely slithering in its sleep. The sheep was surprised by it. As the snake slithers, the sheep smells around the area. Silently, the snake strikes the sheep, slowly disappearing into what appears to be the shadows. So quiet, so strange, the snake slithers away, going back to sleep in the shadows. 6th grader. And if anybody ever asked why we say Black Lives Matter, I read them this poem. This was written by a 7th grader. Got stopped by the cops. Am I gonna die? Questions running through my mind, red and blue lights flashing in my eyes. Is this the world we live in now? Too scared to walk outside. This is what you call discrimination. You think I'm scared because the color of my skin? I don't think we're ever going to win. Do I have to teach my kids this? How to duck every time they see cops? Didn't y'all listen to Martin Luther King? Man, that's a shame. All I got to say is black is beautiful, and that's great. 7th grader. And one more before my last 2 pieces. Thank you all for listening again. I'm always inspired by what students come up with. I'm always saying, like, the next poet laureate is in these schools, so we have to encourage that stuff. And I want this position to last. This has to last beyond me. I wish the color black got love is just as special as those beautiful white doves. Black is misunderstood by mankind's thinking. They look at its darkness and forget that it's scintillating. Black is fear, sadness, and happiness. It's unique from the rest. It has as much soul as white, but its darkness takes away from its light. Like, come on, that's like a really great poem. Like, to come from that experience of, like, its darkness takes away from its light, I think that's great. Anyway, this is a brand new piece. It's called Kinfolk, and I wrote this piece 2 days ago. And being a poet and an artsy, crazy man sometimes, I'm always thinking about these phrases that we always use that we just accept, like apple of my eye, or like I love you from the bottom of my heart. Like, what does that really mean? Like, if I loved you from the middle of my heart, is that worse than the bottom of my heart? Or like when you see somebody and you're like, how you doing? They're like, living the dream. Like, what does that mean? Like, what does that really mean? So that's one of the reasons I don't have a lot of friends, but it's also the reason I write a lot. And another one of those phrases is, I bet you they're rolling around in their grave, or rolling over in their grave. I was like, really? So this is a poem about that. It's a new one. It's called Kinfolk. We assume that rolling over in a grave is the only way our dead kinfolk express trauma in the afterlife. Surely there's other methods for ghosts to let us know they are disappointed in the living, that they are taking notice of our earthside mistakes. Perhaps they could gift us with a haunting, or maybe a night tremor in the middle of a daydream, a cool death chill breath during meditation. Rolling over in a grave is a silent protest that never reaches the oppressor. It assumes the oppressed are content with nothing more than minor movements inside rotting spaces, freely sleeping in man-made cages where grave diggers take great care to not dig up or disturb uncomfortable bones. Thank you. This is my last piece. I really appreciate this experience, just seeing people in the audience. Thank you all for this. I'm waving, to friends who I can't really see because of the light, but it's all good. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, where the sidewalks scream on Saturday nights and the corners rotate budding musicians with skin-tight dreams, where strings of pearls search for salvation, sweating out their frustrations on the backs of rooftops, where the homeless sprout like weeds through concrete seeking $2, a handshake, and a little bit of sunshine, where the humidity chokes you out of your breath, but you still manage to speak to the spit-shine waiters who serve $95 bottles of wine, where 2 blocks away, a $5 pitcher of liquid gold spills on the canvas of sticky floors, where love lingers on cobblestone streets, but the smell of racism is the foundation for first and last impressions. I live in Charleston, where shadows are surrounded by the ocean and seeing people gasp for air from knee-deep bills and dirt-cheap thrills, where those with no sense of history's melody sink with the songs of the city's slaves, where the poets scrape stanzas off of street lights, and if we scream loud enough, maybe someone will hear. I live in Charleston, where church steeples and cranes look over us, and multicolored houses house live-in servants, where fast-rising hotels rise above slow-moving clouds that cast floods on the corner of America Street, where parades of one color get one day to celebrate, then hide in the shadows of gentrification, where Gullah cuisine is too expensive for Gullah people. I live in Charleston, where bridges and bike lanes break bread with politics while progressives preach peace with uneducated tongues, where the angel oak tree is young compared to our vanity, where $16 hamburgers are sold in the middle of a food desert, while every community wants a piece of the pie. Grandmothers sit on porches watching us change, but the problems of our city remain the same. I live in Charleston.